Hello, this is Coach Carolyn Bennett from the Zero Proof Life.
Hi, this is Coach Brandy Babb from the Zero Proof Life. And today we are coming to talk to you about self-care.
Yes, self-care. Um, that can conjure up different meanings for everybody, right? But as we talk about self-care in the scope of what we are here to talk to you today about, we're just looking at basically keeping yourself, we call it the 50% line. um, the 50% line is where you feel good. You don't feel maybe necessarily terrific or euphoric, but you definitely don't feel like you're in the gutter. 50% is just where you feel good. And the minute you start feeling yourself slip is when some self-care should come in. And, as we talk through these things today, we have some ideas for you on self-care and what constitutes self-care in our eyes. These are tools and tactics that you can put into place at other times so that when you find yourself slipping below that line, you can think, okay, I know what works for me. I know what tools work for me. I've explored different things. This will work in this moment, and go from there. So,
Carolyn, may I ask you a quick question?
yes,
I'm
please.
curious, like, so for you, what does it feel like for you, like when you're starting to get below 50%? Do you like what are signs for you?
Yes, great question. Great question. I can always feel like all of a sudden I will feel an energy drain, or I get a little bit grouchy,
Mm.
or I just know for myself that I need to take a deep breath and step out into the sunshine. I mean, and in my body, it feels like a little bit of tension. I notice myself closing in on myself a little bit more shallow breathing. And just sometimes where I will hit a moment where I'm like, okay, I feel flatlined now. And that's when I realize I didn't catch it right away, that I've let myself continue to drop. What about for you, Brandy? How do you feel it?
Yeah, I would say, Carolyn, you know what, I'm not always very good at catching it. Like kind of what you said there at the end is really where when I notice that is me under 50%. And I feel like I go from here to here pretty quickly. And
Mhm.
I get under 50% and I go for sure inward. I get pretty lethargic. I go into, a little bit more of the kind of just feeling very down. I start beating myself up. My self-talk starts getting a lot harsher. So those are signs for me that like, woof, I need to do something to pull myself out of this now. Those are definitely mine. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. Well, and you make such good points where you said you feel like you go from here to here. And if we're not being conscious of it and if we're not really paying attention, checking in with ourselves multiple times per day, right? We do feel like it's this big jump.
Yes.
And guess what happens, right? We all know that that's sometimes when we turn to, habits that we don't want to turn to. It is sometimes when when people will find themselves pouring a drink or eating some extra sugar or, endless scrolling, not recognizing that they're below that 50% line. Yeah.
Yeah. And those things often then keep us below it or knock us down further. Those a lot of those things you just mentioned. So yeah, where we feel like maybe we're thinking it's self-care, but in reality, is it?
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
agreed. Hmm.
So, well, some ideas for self-care. And this is, like we said, adding tools to your toolbox, exploring these things for yourself. Self-care does not have to be taking yourself to the spa for a massage, right? Which is lovely too. But it can be very, very simple tactics and tools. And so if it's okay with you, Brandy, I'll share a couple of mine.
Please.
And I would love to hear what's coming up for you in
Yeah.
terms of care, because it means, like I said, well, like we said, it means something different to all of us. So for me, when I find myself in those spaces, when I find myself going inward, when I feel that, feeling in my body, one of the very best things that I can do for myself is some tapping, emotional freedom technique. It's very simple. There are tons of free videos that you can find online. The tapping solution has some great videos. But basically, it is just talking yourself through, okay, this is how I'm feeling, tapping on these 9 meridian points that these websites will show you, um, and releasing it. Basically, you are tapping into, I'm feeling this, even though I'm feeling stressed right now. I love and accept myself anyway. And it really is to release that feeling, to acknowledge it, to not push it down, keep pushing it down like that beach ball that's going to pop back up in your face, but to acknowledge that this is how you're feeling and then to release it. And so tapping has been so beneficial to me. And I've done it so much that now if I'm in, out in a situation where I'm feeling, maybe stressed or whatever, I can visually tap myself through the points without having to physically do it. So
Wow, that's incredible,
yeah,
Carolyn.
it's
Wow.
worked. My sons, all three of my boys pitched for college baseball, and that used to just about do me in. And I would always step back from the stands and just visually tap through some points, talk
Hmm.
myself through it, and be fine. So
I love that. I'm curious, out of the 9 meridian points, do you find one in particular that you're drawn to the most?
for sure, for sure. And there is a reason. I'm not sure that I could explain it, but definitely this point,
Hmm.
the two that are above and below my mouth and the top of my head.
Mm.
Um, I just feel like I can feel those all the way down to my toes. So I know that I'm releasing what I need to release during that time. And I think it's something, that would work for young kids. They can learn these things. Um, and also for young kids, this is something that children often inherently just do this is grounding, kicking off your shoes, going out, putting your bare feet on the earth, earthing or grounding. What it does is it basically neutralizes the positive electricity that we're carrying around. It downloads it basically into the earth. It helps us feel calmer. It absorbs that for us and it can reduce inflammation. It's just amazing. It's
It's
amazing what,
fascinating.
yeah, it really is fascinating. And I feel like it's a gift that all of us have access to. You
Yeah.
don't need to have a big wide open space. You can even do it through cement, just putting your bare feet on the ground or your hands or sitting
Mm.
down, even better, spending some time there. But tons of studies about why that works. So those are my two self-care tools that I use, daily, honestly.
I
Um,
love that.
thank
Yeah,
you.
those are well, and one of the things I really liked that you said too about the tapping is like not only are you recognizing the feelings and the emotions coming up and giving them space, but the way you spoke about it, really, there was so much self-compassion that came through too, of like you're really stepping into a place of acceptance of those emotions and not judging yourself for having them. And I think one of the things that so many of us struggle with is how do we actually step into self-compassion, and that is a really like great tool to instinctively do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it makes me think of what you said in the beginning, how when you're slipping below this 50% line, you feel yourself, your self-talk and your self-compassion kind of goes out the window, so to speak. So I don't know if you would like to expand on that or share what comes up for you when you in terms of self-care. Where do you go with this?
Yeah, so I tend to find that for me, I do need to take care of myself physically in some way. Like those are my instinctual tools that I want to gravitate towards. So that could mean going to getting outside and moving in some capacity. It could mean dancing for a minute or two, which I find so powerful because it's such a mood shifter as well. And so I definitely find movement to be a big one for me, or doing something for my body. It could be like literally chugging a huge, like I have a 40 fluid ounce bottle. And sometimes like just doing that and chugging some water actually gives me a little bit of like a little burst of something. And then I've got the motivation to take that to the next step. So, for me, I realize that really like self-care is it's all about the little things. It's all about the little ways that I'm incorporating like taking care of myself during the day. It's having my little things like having making sure I do my apple cider vinegar and water before I eat, because I know that's going to support my digestion. And if my digestion is supported, then I'm going to feel better, after I eat. Those types of things, it's incredible how just those little things, being really mindful of them, end up being this true element of self-care. Now, one of the bigger things that I do, like more of an investment type thing that I do, is I started doing hot yoga and hot Pilates a little over a year ago. And I can't explain how much of an impact that's had on me. It's incredible. Like I walk into those classes feeling one way, but as soon as I get near the studio, I feel my whole body start settling down. Like my
Amazing.
nervous system just settles. I have the really, really distinct fortune of having my studio right on the water as well.
Oh,
And so, yeah, so I get to look at the water, hear the birds before I go into class. And then when I come out, if I am finding that if I came into class and class just doesn't quite do it enough for me, I may take an extra just 5 minutes or 10 minutes and sit or stand or lay on the grass. I haven't gotten brave enough to jump in the cold water like everybody, a lot of people do after class, but I
you
haven't
have
done
to
that
both try
enough yet.
that.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
more of a like 15 seconds in the shower cold water person. So
Right. For sure.
right now, but yeah, so from the self-care perspective, those are things that I like to include in.
Mm.
I also just wanted to like just mention as well that for me, one of the big things is stopping as well. Like stopping things can be a big part of self-care. And like when you were speaking about, scrolling, like being on our phones, watching shows, drinking alcohol, eating sugar, like those types of things come up. And and we think a lot of times that those are ways that we're taking care of ourselves. I mean, the conversation around alcohol and that being a part of self-care, some of the commercials, tied to like people getting in bathtubs with a beer, or kicking off their shoes. And there's a commercial where a woman, like a young woman, gets home, pulls her bra out of her shirt and flings it across the room and like sits down with a beer. And it's like, that's the messaging that we're showing about self-care, right?
It's
And so
a
when in
good point.
reality, we know that's not taking care of us after we learn more about alcohol. And it's nice when we can start seeing that, like, oh, actually stopping a behavior is actually even an amazing way of taking care of ourselves, because like you said, it doesn't have to be the massage, right? It self-care doesn't have to cost anything. It could actually even save us money. Which, if we stop drinking, or put a pause on our Netflix membership, or doing those types of things, it's really incredible what it can open up for us as well, when
Right.
it can be uncomfortable at first,
Mm.
but can really create a lot for us, a lot more space.
Absolutely. And by stopping those things, like you said, it opens up room to bring in healthier tools, so to speak,
Yes.
and setting those boundaries for ourselves or from ourselves basically too, right? From
Yes.
the scrolling, from the drinking, but and the societal messages. Absolutely what you said. Um, hoping we can change all that up with conversations like this, right?
Agreed. Yes, absolutely. Well,
Yes.
Carolyn, this has been such a fun conversation today. I'm so excited we got to do this together. And is there anything else you wanted to close with?
Not at all. I mean, I think, we covered on a few things. We could definitely talk about this topic, for hours. So
We'll be
let's wait.
back.
I was going to say we'll be back, right?
Yes,
So yes, that
absolutely.
sounds great.
Good. So if you're interested in learning more about us and watching this, feel free to visit us over at thezeroprooflife.com. You can follow us on all of our social handles there as well. So thank you so much, Carolyn. Great conversation today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brandy.